Welcome everyone to the Addressing Roundtable. I'm Jackie Rajuai, the Go-to-Markets Program Manager for PlusCodes. Today I'm joined by Pratima Joshi, who is the Exec Director of Shelter Associates. Hi, Pratima.
Hi.
And I'm also joined by Mike Makwela, who is a Senior Program Coordinator at PlanAct. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Jake.
Awesome. We will have a conversation about the plus codes based physical addressing work that Shelter Associates and PlanAct are carrying out in their communities in India and South Africa, respectively. Before we jump into the discussion, let's start with a quick short video from Shelter Associates.
Like in most Indian cities, many inhabitants live in slums, haphazard settlements usually excluded from urban planning policies and difficult to navigate. Until recently, finding an exact location was impossible. Over 1,700 families live here. It's a legal settlement, but no one has an individual address. Today, however, this pizza delivery is being made right up to a doorstep. And it's thanks to this unique number, a Google Plus code based on the latitudinal and longitudinal location of a place. It's a blessing for Bhagyashree Kalyankar. She runs an electronics store next door and often needs to order supplies online. She now uses her Plus code as an address on Google Maps and says the material is delivered right to her home. Shelter Associates has been using data to improve conditions in shanty towns. The digital address is their most recent initiative for which they've partnered with Google.
It's going to be a game changer because now there will be an address for every house, which is never the case in a slum. You want to get an ambulance, there's an emergency, there's a fire outbreak, anything. You can leverage Plus codes and make sure that you get that service at your doorstep.
Pratima's team conduct regular information sessions, explaining what Plus codes are and what they can be used for. Many young residents here have smartphones and already use Google Maps. Individual addresses could help residents open bank accounts and access postal services more easily in the future. The technology may look simple, but creating the Plus codes is far from easy.
You are here.
A team of data analysts work at the NGO's main office. They're specialized in using a geographic information system, so-called GIS mapping. They use satellite images as well as field mapping to generate as accurate a digital address as possible, a tricky task in a slum. The architect says the same method is also used to map infrastructure in the slums, from public toilets, manholes, drain networks, to water standposts and garbage bins. All the data is on the website.
That was really inspirational. So let's jump into the Q&A. Pratima, Mike, tell us a little bit about the communities you are working with and how you are interacting with these communities.
So Shelter Associates has been working in really dense informal settlements across several cities of the state of Maharashtra. And most of these slums are on varying topography. For instance, where I'm sitting today, the city of Pune has slums which are 40% of them are on hill slopes. And these are often deprived of most basic essential services. And thousands of families reside in one settlement and they have only one address. So it makes it very difficult for you to go to a particular house, especially when you're talking about, delivery of basic facilities and emergency services. And if you don't know which doorstep to reach, it becomes really very difficult. And so lack of data has made it very difficult for urban local bodies, in the recent pandemic to even track and monitor patients in slums. So addressing has been really a huge issue across these settlements that we've been working in, in almost 7 cities of Maharashtra.
Mike, just a quick overview on PlanAct and the communities you work in.
Thanks, Jackie. The PlanAct is a non-governmental organization based in Johannesburg in South Africa. We work with communities in informal settlements, what we call unplanned settlements or unproclaimed areas, so to speak. So we have a project in Skoonplaas Informal Settlement, which is in the east of Johannesburg. It's a settlement that is well laid out. It is a settlement that it's unplanned. people invaded that land and they stayed there. So we work with such communities as PlanAct, those that are poor, those that are in the margins of society, those that are not considered to be part of the city, the life of the city. So PlanAct's role is to make sure that we work with these communities, make sure that we give a voice to these communities.
Thank you so much. So what are the main challenges that you are trying to solve with addressing?
So I think lack of data has been really the major challenge which every city has been facing. At this point, I really would like to say that our data journey started almost 2 decades ago. And we started by putting usable spatial data in place because we realized that cities often had no clue as to what were the missing gaps in terms of delivery of very essential services like water, sanitation, electricity, or even housing for that matter. So we decided, let's start putting data in place. And so we started with the GIS technologies to begin with, and I'm talking about the late 90s, when we started this poverty mapping. And then, of course, we quickly added Google Earth. When it was launched in 2005, we started using that as a base map. So creating this kind of spatial data was a major challenge because technology was something which was not ingrained in the use of urban local bodies. For them, technology was something that they were not willing to adopt. So for us to get them to see data using technology was, I think, a major challenge. But when we went ahead and mapped, 100% settlements across some of the cities, showed them data, and started showing them how wonderfully data can open up possibilities of delivering things more efficiently in slum, I think that's when they started opening up to looking at data more seriously. So I think our first major challenge was lack of data, and how do you leverage technology to make that data available, spatial usable data available especially.
Thank you. Mike?
Yes, and this is a personal story about this project. I went to this community and I was told a very painful story that a father was rushing his son to the entrance of the settlement because the ambulance could not come through because there is no proper addressing. Right there and there, we started discussing with the leaders that it is important that we have proper addressing. So there are several things that this project intends to achieve. One, to make sure that emergency services are able to come to this informal settlement, this unplanned settlement that does not have proper addressing. Two, to make sure that we engage with the local municipality, because the municipality does provide services. But when you report that the tap is broken or the toilet has not been cleaned, you are unable to explain where you need assistance with, because you don't have proper addressing. Thirdly, we spoke to the police. We interviewed the commander of the police around the area. And when we explained this project to him, he said, that's spot on, because it is going to assist us as police men and women, because normally we are called to come and assist and we're unable to reach that informal settlement because there is no proper addressing. So this is going to assist. That's what we're trying to correct with this project, to make sure that services that the communities are due to receive are received by the residents.
Thank you both. All right. So why did plus codes make sense as the addressing solution? Pratima, you can start.
As I said right at the outset, thousands of families share just one address, which is the name of the slum often, and maybe the city survey number. So we found that, while we had all the mapping systems in place, we had, the data available to share with the government. Not everybody can read a map. As we were, working with the governments, we found that it was they struggled to understand maps, especially when you had, large, complicated slums on hillside, hill slope, where you had over maybe 9,000 families residing in one slum pocket. It was not easy for them to read a map. And plus, we thought that every house should get a location, because every house needs to leverage something, right? You need an emergency service at your doorstep, an ambulance coming, maybe, at some point. And nobody knows where to go and where to stop, which is the closest point that they can come and, fetch you. So we really, really felt that Plus Code would address this major challenge, because you and I use Google Maps almost every other day to reach a place, right? But if I want to get into a slum community and reach a particular house and deliver a particular service, or if the community wants a particular service to be delivered to them, often they end up, giving several other landmarks which sort of come close to their house, but ultimately they're forced to step out and collect, whether it's a postal service or whether, it's something like an LPG cylinder that they require every day. So we thought that it was important that you had a navigable address for every house, which could be, helped. I mean, which could be put on Google Map, and people could use it, because now everybody uses Google Maps. It has become so common that we thought that would be the best way, to get an addressing system going in slums. So it was a value addition for us, in addition to the mapping that we did. And I think it's worked wonderfully wherever we've tried it.
Thank you. Mike?
Yes, in unplanned settlements, in settlements such as ours in South Africa, what we call informal settlements, where you don't have proper addressing, we felt that Plus Code addressing was the perfect addressing system that we wanted to use, because indeed it is a challenge for communities to access services, whether it's mail, whether it's emergency services, so on and so forth. So Plus Code is accurate, it is reliable, it's easy to use, people can relate to it. So it will make life of the people who reside in informal settlement much, much easier, because without a proper address, you are disadvantaged. Your rights and your dignity as a resident, as a citizen of that country, are actually eroded. So proper addressing restores your dignity. It makes sure it confirms your citizenship. It confirms your right as a human being. So that's why we chose the Plus Code addressing, because it is the most reliable and accurate system to use.
Thank you so much, both. So now let's jump into the addressing process. So take us through what the addressing process was like. And I think we'll kick off with Pratima for shelter.
Okay. So I think in this case, we, as I told you, we were already doing a lot of mapping and data collection. So we were very happy when the Google team were willing to be accommodative and, allow us to do, the mapping and generation of Plus Codes our way. So what we really do is we actually use Google Earth as a base map. We go around the slum and we actually mark the houses on the map. We fine-tuned it a bit because, we wanted the doors to be very prominent for every house. So we made sure that we actually pinpointed the door location for every house, because then we generated the Plus Code, closer to the door location, which would make it, so people who were using it could actually reach the doorstep of every house. But we continued with our system because we'd anyway come out with a fairly efficient system of mapping slums using Google Earth. And we got the Google Plus Code team to do a quality check at their end, because they were also, a little apprehensive whether our systems would be accurate enough. And they were very pleasantly surprised that, the way we were doing it was not only accurate, but it also gave us a better output every day in our mapping systems. And we had an accuracy which was really good. When they did the quality control and when they were sort of reassured that this was a good system to go with, they were very accommodative. And so we've continued with it. So now we, not for us, see, I just wanted to point out that it's not just about giving them a location, it was also about giving them services. So when we do an entire mapping and put all the amenities in place, and when I say amenities, right from the community toilet block to a manhole to a water stand post, we put everything on that map so that the urban local bodies can leverage our maps and give services in a planned manner. So we have leveraged our mapping systems for sanitation in a very, very big way. We have implemented one home, one toilet, and reached to more than 24,000 families with a home toilet, where the municipal corporations have used these maps to lay new drainage networks. So for us, it was important that we integrated plus codes with an entire and holistic mapping system. So this is where we were very appreciative when the plus code team was willing to be accommodative of our process, which was already in place.
Thanks so much, Pratima. Mike, walk us through some of the overview of the addressing process in Scotland.
Yes, for us, what we did, we called a public meeting because we wanted a buy-in. And so the community leaders explained the importance of having a proper addressing. From there were 20 original community volunteers who were going to work on this pilot. And 6 of them were identified as going to be trained by the Google team. So they became trainers of trainers. So we took them, brought them to my office, and the Google team had to go through virtually, unfortunately, because of COVID restrictions. We had to go through the training, very intensive training. After 2 or 3 days, then they would go on the field and go and practice what they have learned in class, so to speak. And they will argue amongst themselves, no, the street is straight, no, the street is not straight. This is where the doors, the gate starts, no, it starts there, etc. So those are the very interesting times to use the technology. And so once that has been done, we then had to train the whole team on the plus code system, and then we drew the map of the area. We also started doing the mapping of the area. We then produced a proper map of the area, and then in pairs we started hitting the road, and we would go street by street, house by house, or shack by shack, and make sure that we put the plus code on it, the location properly. And then that process has been completed. And you can see on the screen, we have our plate. For us, by the end of the year, we will have inserted fixed all the plates. And we've already tested it. It works very perfectly. And we're very excited about it. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks. So what addressing activation activities have you undertaken in the communities or plan to undertake in the future?
So far, we have reached out to over 30,000 families with a plus code across a few cities, which includes the city of Kolhapur, which is a tier 2 city, which has 57 slums and which has approximately 17,000 families living across these slums. So every house has a code. And we have been doing very, very intensive community mobilization because it's important that people understand how to use plus code, how to leverage it. And what is exciting is that, people really welcomed it. Communities were excited because for the first time they said, the first reaction was, I'll be able to leverage Amazon, or I would be able, online services. And we were really pleasantly surprised that they actually tested it out first by leveraging online services. And then, of course, they went a step ahead and then started leveraging it even for their own community problems, like, maybe a community toilet had a broken door or a broken pan, or there was a chamber which was overflowing. So they started then, communicating with the ward level engineers, precisely pointing out where the problems were and where they should come. So I think it's been very, very exciting for us because the communities have wholeheartedly embraced it wherever we've taken it. And municipal corporation officials also, when they found that this was actually going to make things easy for them, have slowly started embracing it. So we are very, very, I would say, actively on the ground, training both the communities and the municipal authorities, on how to use it. And we are going to continue with this in as many cities as we can. So this is something that we've really planned out. We really want to take this wherever we're working and actively campaign for it to be included in government, the ID cards that they give. I think it's important that it eventually gets sort of included in the government ID cards also, so that people can reach the location of every family very accurately. We're hoping that will happen in the days to come.
Thanks. That sounds very exciting. Mike?
Yes, we have already planned. One is that we are starting to produce information pack, pamphlet to say to the community, this is how you use the plus code. So we will be going to a massive awareness campaign. We have already spoken to the police. We will be engaging with them further to say, this is how you use the system, the correctional services, because they complained also to say they find it difficult to follow the parolees. They can't track them. So we have already spoken to them. We have already spoken to the ambulance guys. As soon as we are sorted out, they will come on board. The municipality, we've spoken to the housing department, the planning department, the electricity department. So we still want to speak to more. We are planning to speak to the local taxi association. And so once we have completed engaging with all these different stakeholders and for them to understand how to use the system, we'll have achieved our goal.
Thanks so much. What advice would you give someone who's looking to start an addressing project? Pratima?
Yes, that's a very important question, because I believe that if you need to start anything new, and especially an addressing system can be a very sensitive issue anywhere you go. People are sometimes, they feel threatened. Is this going to, lead to something like, maybe eradication of our slums? So you need to get all stakeholders on board. And when I say stakeholders, it's not just the communities who need to, embrace it, but you need to have especially the government. And when I say the government, especially the elected members, the elected representatives should also embrace this. They should be on board. So unless they are all on board and unless they understand why we are doing it and what kind of benefits is going to give both the communities as well as the government, I don't think you should start anything, without, their prior approval and their participation. So I would say that make sure that you get everybody on board, and if possible, have a memorandum of understanding in place, like we've done it with the Kolhapur Municipal Corporation. There is a memorandum of understanding that we will create plus codes, and we would want them to integrate it with their data systems, which they've agreed to do. I think that's important. The other thing is that wherever we've done data, we've tried to co-create it. So we get the communities to also get involved in creating that data. And plus we get the municipal corporation or the municipal authorities to validate that data. Because unless you feel comfortable and confident about that data, you're not going to use it. So we get, both these people to co-create data with us. For us, it's important that we always advise people that if you really want to get something going, which is more lasting and enduring as a process, then try and have trained teams. If you can have GIS expertise on your team, go for it, because it really makes a lot of difference when you have, a close coordination with the GIS experts as well as the field team, who ultimately then not only create great maps, but also give an addressing system. So I also insist on that if somebody wants to start. And after you've created all this data, if you don't invest in mobilization efforts, because you'll give everybody a plate, but if people don't use that plate, then it's a wasted effort. So to be able to sustain and make it a part of their life, I think it's very important that you must ensure that every family understands how to use, the plus codes on on their mobile phones. Also, to me, it's important that data should lead to something. So with Plus Code, it has given an added impetus to our One Home, One Toilet program. So it actually translating into something which is very tangible on the ground. So people are getting toilets, they're getting metered water systems. So I think it's important that you don't do data just for the sake of data, but you invest in making sure that that data gets used on the ground for something very tangible, and that is very exciting, and that makes the systems get entrenched better if it's used. So these are a few things that I would like to stress on before you start any project.
Thanks. Mike, any advice?
Yes, I think for us, I must commend the partnership that we have with Google. We're really, really appreciative. So the first thing is partnership, really, making sure that you work with other people. And when we approached Google, we dropped them an email. They, positively responded to our request to work in partnership with us. So that's the first thing. The second thing for us, still on partnership, you need to work with other people, the municipality, the police, the ambulance, the correctional service, the shops, the taxi association, etc. The second thing for us is about community mobilization. It's important that you mobilize communities so that they appreciate and understand the Plus Code, but also to make it very clear it is their project. We are the facilitators. It is their project. That's why you need community volunteers. You need people who are going to hit the ground, who are actually going to do the actual Plus Code addressing, because they know the area much better. Is the people who live there, who sleep there, who enjoy their life there. So that's the third thing. The other thing that is important is that you need to engage. When we started, introducing this concept to the municipality, they were very, very skeptical, very, very dismissive, and there's no, it can't be done in an unplanned settlement, in an informal settlement. How do you do it? Okay, we tried to explain, and we explained, and we explained. After fourth or the fifth time, we started getting some officials beginning to understand and appreciate the value this addressing is going to bring to the citizens of Scone Plus, but also that the municipality is going to benefit. Remember, municipalities provide services, they provide water, yet they don't get anything in return because there is no proper address. They can't bill the people who live in informal settlement who want to pay for services. So yeah, those are the things that we have learned from this process. Mobilize. It is the community's project. So yeah, we are very excited.
Thank you so much, both. So how have you seen these addresses impact the community? Pratima?
Well, I'm delighted to say that, we started our efforts with sanitation, and Plus Codes became so valuable for us when we were doing this program. And in the city of Kolhapur, they now want to see if they can use Plus Codes for tracking the metered water systems in informal settlement. So what I'm trying to say here is that when you create data and when you have Plus Codes, it can be cross-cutting across departments. Every department, whether you're talking about education, whether it is livelihoods, whether it is solid waste management, electricity, this is an addressing system that can be adopted by almost every department. But I think one important thing that we must remember is that you should have some scale when you do a project like this. If you're going to do Plus Codes for one settlement here and odd settlement there, then you will not get a buy-in from the municipal authorities very easily, because for them, one settlement is not good enough. In Kolhapur city, we've been able to get them, really excited because we've covered all the settlements. And now they know that if this data gets integrated with their data, they're going to have, 100%, coverage of slums within their own city. So I think scale is very important when you do a project like this. And I would also, I'm very happy that we are working at scale in some of the cities with plus codes, and we hope to do many more in the years to come.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, we have already received 15 communities, informal settlements, that have visited this project, despite the fact we don't have the plates yet. But just the community leaders to share with them the process that we have engaged and the trip, what we have gone through. So we are ready to scale up this project. We're already planning about 2 or 3 other settlements to make sure that we scale it up. But secondly, when we did our accuracy test, we wanted to really test whether indeed this is working, and we ordered a pizza, and wow, pizza was there on our doorstep, and so we realized that the location is accurate, and it proved us that this system is going to work for us. So yeah, we had a pizza on that day. On a normal day, you would never get that because you don't have an address.
Yeah.
So when you feel like having a pizza tonight, you call, please come and drop a pizza. Where are you? You can't be saying I'm next to a big tree in a green shack opposite a pink other shack. When you turn around, you'll find you can't do that. It's not possible. So this addressing is going to go a long way in really addressing the challenges of the residents of School Plus informal settlement. And we hope to scale it up.
Thank you so much, Pratima and Mike, for being a part of this panel and the wonderful work that you and your organizations are doing for the community. For those who are watching, please stick around for the next session where you get a more in-depth look of what it takes to do an addressing exercise. And that's going to be carried out by my colleagues, Rohan and Ankush. Pratima, myself, and Mike will be back for a live Q&A session immediately after the training with Rohan and Ankush. Thank you so much for your time and enjoy the Geo for Good Summit.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Yeah.